We don't see it having particular implications here in New Zealand.
Okay, so it's not infrastructure on the ground in New Zealand, it's more our companies helping them out overseas.
Yeah, that's more the flavour of it. I mean, we have our own financing arrangements here in Dunedin, here in New Zealand. I don't know where that came from. We've got a big infrastructure investment program, and the Chinese banks who are registered in New Zealand focus mainly on trade flows, but they seem to be showing some interest in infrastructure investment, but that would be on the usual terms and conditions, competitive conditions here in New Zealand.
China Rail's memorandum of understanding with the Northland Regional Council, is that anything to do with One Belt, One Road?
Oh, look, you'll find the term bandied around and used in a whole lot of different circumstances just because it's the initiative of the Chinese president, and it's a way of them describing their economic ambition. So I couldn't tell you where it crops up or doesn't crop up, but in Northland, any help that they can get there for their development is going to fit in with the government support that we're providing.
Were you aware of up in Northland? Do you know anything about the deal?
No, I don't know anything in particular about it, no.
Is the government in discussions about a Chinese firm helping to build or building the City Rail link?
I'm not aware of the detail of that. The government is heavily involved with the City Rail link and increasingly in the commercial processes, but I'm not aware of who the participants are. I would imagine that, it will be the case that that'll all be conducted as a pressurised commercial process designed to get the best deal for ratepayers and taxpayers.
Was it raised in the discussions with the President?
No, it wasn't.
Premier Lee was suggesting that the island building in the South China Sea that China is doing is to do with their 21st century Silk Road as part of their One Belt, One Road policy. Do you think the installations that are being built in the South China Sea are commercial for use of private people, private companies?
Well, look, our position remains unchanged. We expect any differences of view there to be resolved through the application of the international rules. We know it's a sensitive issue between New Zealand and China, and we don't think it'll have an impact on the rest of the relationship. But that's New Zealand's expectation hasn't changed since those disputes started.
Did you talk about the Trump presidency and what that might mean for Chinese leadership in the region?
Not the Trump presidency in particular, but we did talk about the economic interdependence between China and the US, and we expressed New Zealand's interest in that being a functional positive relationship, because if it isn't, then it has a significant economic and political impact. And of course the Premier is an economic expert. He fully understands the nature of the connection between the US and China, and I think very clearly understands what's at stake in the quality of that relationship. But there wasn't any specific reference to the Trump administration.
Did he talk about a long-term view of wanting to join TPP if it survives?
That didn't come up in detail. There was discussion about the immediate issues around getting this RCEP negotiation continued. The Chinese government's keen to see some progress. We're keen to see commercially relevant and valuable negotiations going on there. It's quite a challenge to move that along. But with respect to TPP, he didn't offer wasn't any particular comment from him. I think that they would be, I think we've yet to see what progress we can make with the other 11 countries. But in the long run, of course, technically, China can join the TPP.
What's so challenging about RCEP at the moment?
Just making progress in a way that we find meaningful. And there's always a temptation with trade agreements just to agree on whatever. New Zealand has a strong focus on higher quality agreements that really do deliver benefits, and with RCEP that's a bit of a challenge.
Was there any discussion about labour and Chinese workers perhaps being part of any infrastructure builds in New Zealand?
No, and we wouldn't be making any special provisions in that respect. I mean, we do have the RSE scheme, which brings migrant labour in for seasons, but we're not have in mind any particular arrangements
As a
around
general,
Chinese workers.
general rule, are you quite interested in China helping with some of our big infrastructure projects if they're the right fit?
Well, look, it's up to them to decide to take part on the terms and conditions that the New Zealand infrastructure industry operates on, and that's commercially competitive.
Did he give you an overview of the strategic situation in East Asia in the wake of Trump, in the light of Japanese concerns about China, and in the light of what's happening in North Korea?
Well, there was some discussion about around North Korea, and the Premier simply expressed the desire of the Chinese to maintain the kind of stability that has fed the economic growth that's benefited everybody. So you've got a pretty clear picture from the Premier that the Chinese leadership is focused on the right conditions for ongoing economic growth and lift rising incomes in China, and particularly in the light of the statements they've made globally about taking a leadership position on free trade. I think it was quite a positive description of what they want to achieve.
But I'm talking about the strategic situation in terms of the nuclear situation, in terms of the military situation in the region. Did you discuss that?
There was reference to it with respect to North Korea, but we didn't discuss that in depth, or might have the opportunity over lunch to do that.
You mentioned
Premier
Chinese
gave a very long answer in reply to the question about steel dumping. What did you take from that, particularly the reference to not objecting to New Zealand's level of dairy exports, and did you discuss it in the meeting?
It wasn't discussed in the meeting, but look, we understand it's a sensitive issue for China. There's other cases around the world of a similar nature. It's in our official process that's arm's length from government, and it'll be seen through to a conclusion according to the official processes.
Were you surprised though that he mentioned steel dumping and then went on to mention New Zealand's high level of dairy imports?
Oh no, not particularly. I mean, I think you got a sense of the robustness of the relationship. These are issues that get talked about in pretty testing ways, and that's as it should be.
So you didn't take those comments as a warning?
In terms of helping fund New Zealand infrastructure, was there any talk about them expanding their presence in New Zealand, or any talk on the residential side as well? We've seen them ramping up residential mortgage lending here as well.
Look, there was no discussion about that as part of our bilateral discussions, but of course in our banking sector we welcome some competition. We've got a very concentrated banking sector, probably more than most other developed countries, and it's good that the conditions in New Zealand are such that smaller banks, including our local New Zealand-owned banks, are able to grow, particularly as there seems to be some evidence that the Australian banks are just tightening credit availability at the margin.
What exactly did we sign up to with the Belt and Road Initiative, the MOU today, the agreement?
Oh, look, it's an indication of support. It's one of these things where, in a relationship we have with China, we've played a small role in it, principally through our support for the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. We were the first developed country to sign up to that. That was a decision made a few years ago. Their bank is now up and running. It's going to play a part in financing the various projects that the Chinese government want to initiate. So look, we've got a small role in it. We're supportive of the general notion, and we hope it does create some opportunities for New Zealand businesses.
Will we attend the summit in May, and who will go?
We've agreed that Minister Goldsmith will go to the summit in May.
Thanks, people. Can we just have one more question? The PM's got a lunch.
Just on the upgrade of the free trade agreement, what are you hoping to achieve out of that for New Zealand?
Well, look, we would like to see further improvements in access of New Zealand products. Probably the main issue from New Zealand's point of view, or one of the issues from New Zealand's point of view, is just that the growth in trade has been so strong that some of the safeguard levels set back in 2008 are quite low levels, and the dairy industry's raised this issue with us. And there's other issues that I think businesses trading with China want to see dealt with. So look, it's going to be a challenging negotiation to get what New Zealand wants, but that's nothing new. I mean, we're used to always negotiating trade agreements around sensitive issues, particularly related to agricultural products.
So if Australia's getting an upgrade as well, will we be working with them for a sort of, cooperating so we're not played off against each other?
Well, we'll probably keep in mind what's going on there, but I think this one's at a further advanced stage. As the Premier indicated, we'll be starting negotiations within a month, and look forward to making progress.
Would it be lawful for
Okay.
Chinese
Thanks
workers to
very
be housed in cruise ships and docked in Auckland or at Northport for those big infrastructure projects?
Sorry, I don't know anything about those propositions.
Would that be lawful though? Do you know?
I have no idea. I suspect not.